The central and most consequential action of Thomas Jefferson and the Democratic Republicans in 1803 was the Louisiana Purchase, a massive land acquisition from France that carried profound negative and unethical ramifications, most notably in its expansion of human bondage and its disregard for Native American sovereignty. The most damning consequence was the vast expansion of slavery. The Purchase, which secured over 828,000 square miles of territory, opened a massive, fertile new frontier for American settlement and, crucially, for the expansion of plantation agriculture, particularly cotton. This act directly fueled a brutal domestic slave trade, as hundreds of thousands of enslaved African Americans were forcibly moved from the Upper South to the new territories, ripping apart families and exponentially increasing the scale of human suffering for generations. Jefferson's public anti-slavery sentiments were entirely contradicted by this action. His hope that diffusing the enslaved population would somehow hasten the institution's demise proved tragically false, instead solidifying and magnifying slavery across a quarter of the continent. Furthermore, the Purchase was an enormous act of dispossession against indigenous peoples. The land was not France's to legitimately sell, as it was inhabited and governed by dozens of sovereign Native American nations. The transaction completely ignored their existence, their treaties, and their land claims. By establishing an American title to the territory, Jefferson set the stage for a century of aggressive westward expansion, state-sponsored warfare, and the eventual violent policy of Indian removal, which resulted in immense suffering, cultural destruction, and the forced displacement of entire tribes from their ancestral homelands. The Louisiana Purchase was, in effect, a declaration of intent to conquer and colonize the continent at the expense of its first inhabitants. Finally, the president's action involved an unethical disregard for his own constitutional principles. As a strict constructionist, Jefferson believed the federal government could only exercise powers explicitly granted in the Constitution. However, the document provided no specific authority for the president to acquire foreign territory. Jefferson, faced with what he considered an unmissable opportunity, chose to bypass his principles and proceed without a constitutional amendment. While politically expedient, this abandonment of his core limited government philosophy set a precedent for expansive presidential power that he himself would have denounced had it been used by his Federalist opponents.